Makers and Finders is kicking off 2025 with new food items, cocktails, and specialty lattes. And there are new takeout specials available on the Makers and Finders app or if you call in your order. An empanada bowl and latte for $15? Amazing! Call to place your order today at 702-586-8255 or download their app and create an account, and you'll also get $5 off your very first order. Makers and Finders is located in the Arts District, downtown Summerlin and Henderson. Stop in to try out some of their new treats for the new year.
So it hit a record 80 degrees in February this week, which of course means that we should be prepared for July temperatures around, 147 degrees. But since Melt-A-Mania is a future worry, let's focus on what's making the news right now. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by List.Vegas editor Andrew Corrali and my co-host Sarah Lohman, and we're discussing President Trump cutting access to a honeypot of cash that Nevada was counting on for solar projects, people allegedly getting sick after visits to unlicensed local doctors, and a power outage on the Strip causing chaos, but also making us think, what would you do if the lights went out on the boulevard? It's Friday, February 7th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Welcome, Sarah and Andrew, to the Friday News Roundup.
Hey, hey.
Hello. Did you see that Black Mountain Institute announced a new Summers Writers residency, and they're calling it the 117, like 117 degrees?
I love it.
I love that they're being so honest with incoming writers about what it will actually be like when they're here.
Yes, prepare for death from above.
They probably need to revise that number upwards and rebrand.
Ugh.
Yeah, given these recent developments in weather. I also want to give a big hi welcome to new listeners to CityCast Las Vegas. We do this every Friday where we look back at the week's news. And we usually start with something called the Hot Headline.
Hot Headline.
Exactly. But because this Monday started the beginning of the 83rd Nevada legislative session, I think we're going to move it from the head down to I'm going to say the leg, although let's just call it the Hot Ledge Line.
Hot Ledge Line.
There we go. So little tidbits of news coming out of the Nevada State Legislature, who only meets every other year for 4 months. Coming into the 21st century is hard for any slow-moving group of government officials, but finally, our state legislature has dropped the gender-clunky assemblyman language and opted for the more inclusive but probably also clunky assembly member.
It's that easy, right?
Yeah. Given Nevada's majority female legislature, that seemed like a long overdue oversight, but it is not without its controversy, friends.
Of course.
There are people pushing back.
Is it controversial, though, even if people are pushing back?
I think that's what makes controversy. In fact, the prominent Republican senator in the legislature, Ira Hansen, went on a frickin' tirade about this whole thing, calling it a product of the woke mind virus and further fueling the culture wars.
Oh, God. He's a victim of the joke mind virus.
Yeah.
As in, what a joke. Oh,
I liked it.
He was pretty much in tears. He was joined by another representative, Danielle Gallant, I think is how you pronounce her name. Maybe it's Gallant. Saying women should be able to be women and men aren't men. And why are you doing this? And it was craziness.
I'm happy to see it because why should we be gendered within our workplace?
So much chaos, though, over frickin' pronouns. Who knew that this innocuous part of speech would be the end of modern society? I always thought it'd be adverbs, very surreptitiously.
But suffixes for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Ira Hansen went off and saying that the Dems are devils because this is their first action. And then he just went off muttering about Manhattan and menopause, and he couldn't understand either one of those words either.
Me neither.
My favorite of Ira Hansen's comments, though, was he goes, the word senator, you know what it translates to from the old Latin? Old man. And I think no one serves that definition better than Senator Ira Hansen. Yikes.
He kind of owned himself on that one.
Suits you, buddy.
All right, let's jump into the news. Nevada is losing access to millions in solar funds after Trump cut the pipeline to funding previously made available as part of Biden's signature Inflation Reduction Act. Sarah, what's happening here?
Yes. So log this under, I guess that's what you log it under, deep sigh. So this is from Jennifer Solis from the Nevada Current, reporting done by Ms. Solis. So Nevada is one of several states that is being cut off from millions of federal dollars in community solar funding from the federal government. This is problematic because those funds were already legally obligated to the state. They should contractually be paid out. This program was in the midst of happening. There was an income cap to it. You applied and you could get free or affordable solar for your home. The funds were expected to finance about 125 multifamily affordable housing and community solar projects across Nevada. It was going to lower energy costs by about 20% for 20,000 low-income and disadvantaged households. People applied in December. The applicants were in the process of approval, and the solar project was going to start this month, February 2025. Not only was the money going to provide solar for low-income families here in Nevada, but also it was going to create 1,000 jobs throughout the states. So, unfortunately, President Trump and his administration has put a freeze on these funds. The entire program was called Solar for All, and then that money was going to the Nevada Clean Energy Fund. That program, the Nevada Clean Energy Fund, was actually created in 2017 under Republican Governor Brian Sandoval. So this is an old program in our very purple states. Our state was awarded a $156 million grant in last April. And the reason that President Trump and his administration have decided to freeze these funds is under a new program called Unleashing American Energy. And they're framing it as, well, we're going to take a look at things. This is a funding pause. We're going to see if the money's being spent well. But it also has to do with the fact that this is a Biden program. So the whole idea, the Inflation Reduction Act and Bipartisan Infrastructure Act was a Biden program. So it feels like no matter the intended recipients of this program, Republican or Democrat, this administration just wants to undo everything the previous administration did.
Woof.
So again, it is rough because this program, I'm sure this money is, so part of it has been spent. You know, they were already in the process of creating this program. And again, this was a contractual legal obligation. So I'm curious if we're also going to see some lawsuits here. But at the end of the day, we're just making things harder for struggling residents here in Nevada.
Well, I wonder, Andrew, I mean, with the out of order sign now being put on this ATM, who stands to lose the most in this newest development involving solar energy in our very sunny community?
Yeah, most immediately, it's going to affect this program that would have helped, low-income families save a few bucks on their energy bills. So, they're the most immediate victim. No surprise, given the new administration. But, in the broader context, right, we all lose, right? Because this makes for more expensive energy, more volatile prices when it comes to energy, and, dirtier air. And then the climate change clock continues, ticking apace. So, short-sighted, mean-spirited, and as always, the cruelty is the point, right?
Yeah, this program was just a nice thing to do. And it was not just nice in terms of support for Nevadans, but also it was looking forward to the future and figuring out how we can create a better future for everybody. And there just seems to be no actual analytics. We can hope that that is happening in the federal administration right now to decide if the program is worth it or not.
Well, they're calling it a pause, not a defund, right? I mean, it is a pause, though it is a big friggin' pause. I mean, does that uncertainty, you think, have its own problems?
Yeah, I mean, it's still just illegal for them to do. It was contractually obligated funding. The program's been in place, and they've also given no reason. Not that that matters. Again, it was already moving forward, and there just seems to really be nothing bad about this programming. We'll see what they say. But yeah, it's honestly, it's a big mess. Things were already moving. It's really disappointing and upsetting.
Well, I got to say, I am a fan of analytics and making sure that if you are going to be spending money, that it is in the best way possible. So in philosophy, I wouldn't be opposed to this type of conversation before you start granting people money and letting them fill out applications and then having their expectations up.
And I'm going to go ahead and just make a valid assumption that probably was done. This program probably already was analyzed. It was already thought through. And keep in mind, this isn't direct federal government to individual Nevadans. It was going to a statewide program founded under one of our Republican governors. So what the federal government is doing is distributing to not just Nevada, but other states that have in-state programs that applied for this grant funding. So you have to lay out a very careful plan of how that money is going to be spent. Yeah. And then, of course, the system was already in place. The end of the game is just providing solar, which is great and highly appropriate for Southern Nevada. And now that's just not happening.
I just wonder if Senator Ira Hansen still identifies Brian Sandoval as a Republican. Andrew, what other changes do you think we might see sooner than later in Las Vegas due to President Trump's and Shadow President Musk's slew of executive orders when it comes to the money flow?
Yeah, like Sarah was saying, I mean, this is especially disappointing given how well Nevada is positioned to, be a leader in solar, right? We're sunny and we're hot. But, there are some other features of Nevada and Southern
That's
Nevada.
That's also how I describe you to friends, Andrew.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. There's the bromance. Always love to see it.
But, another sort of, target that I see on Nevada's back is our wealth of federal lands, our public lands. We're 87%, owned, quote unquote, by the federal government. And so I think public lands are going to be in the crossfire for old school energy development, the shrinking of national monuments and
oh yeah, I think we're already seeing that.
Yeah, protected wilderness areas. So I think it's going to impact not just our energy, but it's going to impact our wildlife, our natural beauty, our travel tourism. So Nevada is a juicy target.
Like, if I could just jump off that too, Andrew, that's a great point because, this solar funding was also going to fund a lot of rooftop solar panels, which is the way to go because we've talked about in terms of how the solar fields and solar farms out in the desert have some awful effects on the habitat and the natural beauty of these areas
Huge
too.
Footprints, yeah.
And the animals. Huge footprints for all of the animals from the air to the ground. It sucks. The other two things that I'm worried about, honestly, is there's a lot of conversation that mortgage rates are going to go up because of this trade war and tariff war with the United States and Canada, Mexico and China.
So many moving parts to everything.
Everything. And I don't honestly even fully understand how those two things are connected. However, this I do get. The tariffs are also going to increase prices on building materials. So that means that it's just going to be more expensive to build houses. And we're in an affordable housing crisis. And then, of course, as we've also talked about, we've got one of the highest undocumented populations in the country here in Nevada. This is largely due to our hospitality industry. So that is really where the anxiety in the pit of my stomach hits is our economy in Nevada going to collapse because we no longer have workers and we're not supporting those undocumented workers on a path to citizenship because of what? It doesn't make sense.
Right. And all the stomach feels when, budgets start to get slashed somewhat indiscriminately. I'm just hoping that if the current administration is listening, don't cancel your membership to CityCast Las Vegas. It's vital for government operations.
Join Aroma Retail for their annual We Love Locals event Saturday, February 8th from noon to 4 p.m. at the Smelly Bar, located at 5525 South Valley View Boulevard, Suite 2. There will be big discounts on all of their home scenting products and some free giveaways. Aroma Retail will be there along with a featured lineup of 15 local small businesses, some of Las Vegas's favorite food trucks, and free mimosas. As a woman-owned small business, Aroma Retail prides itself on community. They value building up other local businesses to create opportunities, jobs, and camaraderie throughout Southern Nevada. So come find Aroma Retail at the We Love Locals event Saturday, February 8th from noon to 4 p.m. at the Smelly Bar. Or purchase products online at aromaretail.com.
I see you looking at me.
Can I have your attention, please? Yes, I, Wanda Sykes here. You ever think about all the nicknames we have for breasts? Boobs, tatas, the girls, chesticles, bubbies. Heck, you might even have your own nickname for them. And yet, even though they get so much attention, they're still so ignored when it matters most. What's up with that? Well, on February 9th, tune in to see why I'm talking so much about breasts and visit yourattentionplease.com to learn more.
All right, let's move on to subject number 2. Oh, this is to me a Vegas story, and I hate that it's a Las Vegas story. And by that, I mean a typical Vegas story. Apparently, there are some unlicensed doctors out there, not only who are treating patients, but allegedly getting them ill. Andrew, what's the latest sadness when it comes to medical health in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I call this one "The Doctor is in Jail." So in an undercover sting operation recently on a medical clinic near Oakey and Arville, Las Vegas police arrested 2 men after several patients who'd visited this clinic became sick after treatment. The 2 men, Hector Cuba Quintana and Ismael Rizzo Martinez, they face charges of acting as a medical practitioner without a license, resulting in substantial bodily harm, and, deep breath, furnishing a dangerous drug without a prescription. So this story actually goes back to September, and that's when police initially got a report that a patient seeking help for a kidney infection went to this clinic and received a treatment that made her even more ill, and she ended up going to the emergency room. So the cops launched an undercover investigation in November, and after several more reports came in of patients becoming sick after being treated at the clinic, the police arrested the 2 men last week. Of course, this is just a suitcase filled with commentary about healthcare in Las Vegas. And, it's no secret that Nevada healthcare is pretty dismal, right? And, we all know the statistics. Our healthcare system ranks, on any good day.
Huge shortages, lack of specialists.
We're 41st overall of the 50 states.
Cost.
Yeah, well, we're near the bottom.
Just like we always are. Not quite the worst, but almost.
Yeah, we're vying for the worst, as we do here in Nevada. Yeah, we're among the bottom near doctors when it comes to doctors per capita, and about 11% of our population is uninsured. So we're also near the bottom there. But I guess what I want to talk about is, this isn't just about our broken healthcare system, or the story just isn't about like rogue doctors. I think this particular story has some additional factors to it, and the wrinkle here is that this medical office primarily serves Spanish-speaking clients who did not have health insurance. And so it's not a stretch to infer that many, if not most of the patients who visited this clinic, might be undocumented. And this is only going to get worse. I mean, it's almost certain that the climate of fear whipped up by Trump's mass deportation policy and his anti-immigrant rhetoric is going to impact how undocumented immigrants interact with the healthcare system.
They want to stay out of the system in every way possible. Yeah.
Right. Is part of the point, right? Again, the cruelty is the point. So if they're uninsured and if they're worried about being deported, they're not going to go to the doctor. They're probably not even going to go to urgent care. They're going to continue to put their health into the hands of, these opportunistic scam artists and shady clinics, or they're going to wait until their condition is so bad until it requires a trip to the emergency room. So we have to ask, what kind of strain is that going to put on Nevada's already overloaded system? So this is going to have systemic ripple effects. And so it's easy to say like, oh, these bad guys, scam artists, but they're responding to a market that it has unfortunately been created because, whether you're undocumented or not, you need healthcare. So I think that we're going to see more of these stories coming out.
I just want to say one piece, and I know, Sarah, you're going to have lots of thoughts on this just because I know you.
I have a heart and a brain.
Right? Well, and that's the thing. But, when people talk about it, and let's assume that there are at least enough of a population of undocumented people who have been using clinics, this one and other ones that are probably operating in our community right now. And I'm sure that there are some out there who say, look, if you come into this country illegally, you don't deserve to have the good things that we have and all this other crap. Let's put those people in a deep freeze for a second. We're talking about our neighbors. We're talking about the people who work in places where we get our food and get our stuff. We're talking about your kids' school friends, and their parents. There is no us and them when it comes to just the well-being of humans. There are all of us, and everyone, I don't care who you are, of course, is entitled to having the best available healthcare. But in Las Vegas, that's a challenge for everyone who's on this podcast right now, let alone people who are living in the margins. Sarah, go for it.
I think we also have to take undocumented out of the equation for right now, because we know damn well that the ICE raid in New Jersey that happened at a factory recently, they were detaining people who were American citizens who were brown. And we know damn well that in the Southwest, they are detaining indigenous Americans because they are brown.
Yeah, those reports have come out. That's documented. Speaking of documented, they are stopping people who are indigenous peoples to America.
Yep. Which is, oh God, that is really awful. So you can understand, I mean, we could talk about indigenous people, that there are already many reasons that someone in this country, citizen or non, would not want to interact with the government, especially right now, would not want to be recorded in the system because of years and years and years of betrayal. And we could talk about that in Black Americans too.
So, Sarah, let me ask you, I mean, this is out there. What should be the call to action as far as getting appropriate health care to as many people, especially people living in poverty or people who are marginalized or people who are fearful? What conversation should we be having in our damn community when these stories come out?
Hopefully, it has already been had, because keep in mind, the Nevada legislature has already passed a free public health care option here in Nevada that should be available in 2026. And I hope to goodness it is, because when you don't have access to regular health care, you end up dying sooner and being less productive over your life. So I just want to talk about this in economic terms. People who don't have ongoing health care are sicker more often and working less, right? And as you mentioned, David, ultimately, if your only recourse is to go to the emergency room, that is way more expensive for both our local, state, and federal health care systems than it would be just to give everybody free access to healthcare.
Right.
Healthcare should be a human right, and we're seeing the direct effects of it, because I will bet my shiny penny that the three of us at different times in our life have chosen not to go to the doctor because it seemed overwhelmingly hard, potentially too costly. We, all born in America and white passing, have made the same choices to compromise our own health instead of just going to the doctor because the system is already so messed up. So I'm deeply hoping that this law that has already been passed, but that doesn't seem to mean anything right now, will happen, and that in 2026, people like us and everyone else in the state of Nevada is going to pick free public option health care.
Yeah, and I just want to echo your point that the mass deportation dragnet it's big, it's messy, it's indiscriminate, and it's going to affect us all. And so I didn't mean to imply that this was just an undocumented, problem. The last thing I want to do is sort of otherize undocumented workers.
Not at all. I think that a lot of people just start thinking about it that way.
Yeah, so your points are salient and urgent.
And I just want to end it by saying, look, you don't have to just go to the big name doctor firms and, people who've been around forever, but you do need to have a little bit of caution on your own as far as going to places that don't seem to be right. There are places where you can look up to make sure that your doctors are licensed and credentialed if there's any concern at all, or if it just feels that way.
It's worth reading reviews on places like ZocDoc, too.
Exactly.
I've been able to find some great doctors in the city just by seeing what other people say about them.
Great advice, Sarah.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 312, Saturday. Reigning middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis defends his title in a rematch against Sean Strickland. And Zhang Weili defends her strawweight title against undefeated Tatiana Suarez. UFC 312, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
All right, let's move on to the last topic. And this, initially this was like a want for me, but then I just saw the potential of good conversation and discourse, and we like to end them on a kind of a fun note. But there was another Strip power outage last week, and of course, when that happens, everything obvious that follows, the Instagram posting and the pontificating and the, trope about Ocean's 11 coming to life any second now. Always happen, but power goes down sometimes. I love always the photos of people who are stuck in the elevators when it happens, and they're always freaking out.
Ugh.
There's not a lot
We both
to
got
it,
the heebie-jeebies from that. Ugh. No one's been stuck in it. No one has had to pee in a corner.
right? I mean, there's not a lot to this particular story of the recent power outage. I don't think that there was any insidious cause of it, but it does make me want to ask Sarah and Andrew, with your heebie-jeebie alert now activated, where would be the worst place to get stuck during a power outage on the Strip?
Other than any elevator, for
Yeah.
sure, which I think is a
Yeah.
lot of people's worst nightmare. I was thinking the roller coaster at New York, which although the view could be spectacular, and I don't think there's any upside-downy parts on that roller coaster, is there?
You're talking to the guy who does not go on those things, so
I don't think there's
know.
a loop on the. Yeah, I don't think there is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a loop either.
Oh, our producer says there
oh, there
are. There
are.
are some upsy
I
downsies.
think there's a corkscrew, maybe.
No
yeah.
loop, just an
But
upsy
an
downsy
upside
part.
down. Yeah. Upside downsy part would be the worst place to get stuck. Top of the hill would be the best. But I do think that I will inevitably have to pee after waiting in line or whatever. So being stuck on a roller coaster when you have to pee is the worst.
Yeah,
Andrew?
Yeah. Well, of course, elevator is my number one, and even my skin just tingles with incipient panic even when I think about it. I think it would be kind of weird to be stuck at the top of the Strat. Of course, you would be fine, but what a view it would be if you could see the entire city just go dark from high up. But that might be kind of creepy, right? Because you're like, how do I get down? And maybe a premise for a.
There are stairs.
Oh yeah, I guess so. You could do you could descale the Strat, I guess, coming down.
That's actually an annual event where for a nonprofit, you walk up.
Yeah, you go up the stairs.
Yeah, for the Lung, I think, Association or something.
Imagine they
Yeah.
take the elevator down.
Yeah, I would imagine that if the lights went out during on the Fremont Street experience, I think that the entire street would explode in a fury of primal, ferocious, sudden violence for some reason.
The Purge. Fremont Street would be
Yeah.
the Purge, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It would get purgy really fast, so that would be kind of spooky as well.
Yeah. Actually, I want to give a shout out to the Scale the Strat, which is coming up February 23rd in
good
support
time.
of the American Lung Association. That all worked out. It's 1,455 steps, Andrew, just FYI.
On my 8th
okay.
grade Washington, D.C. trip, we went up to the top of the Washington Monument and the power did go out and we had to take the stairs down. And it really messes with your depth perception. It's obviously not as physically hard, but like you start going slow because your brain can't figure out what's happening. It was very, very
my God.
weird and unique experience.
Did you have hypertrophic calves at the end?
I mean, I was 12, so I don't think or 13, so I don't think my calves were doing much of anything.
I think the worst place, if I was a Cirque performer, I would be really very scared of power outages, especially at like when you're about to dive into the water that magically appears.
Oh, yeah.
And all the other technological advances.
There's got to be backups
There's got to be backups, yeah.
to make sure like the floor opens and stuff.
All right, I'm going to get a little more personal. If I ever were to do the indoor skydiving, which is sadly now shuttered, over at Flyaway or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and I finally reached the peak top and then the power went out. Okay, so there's that. But maybe on an even more micro level, the worst place for me would be to be on the mezzanine of Circus Circus. I'm never going to stop talking about Circus Circus.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pull that clown scarf from my dead cold mouth.
I was going to say Circus Circus too, but I was like, we make fun of Circus Circus too much.
I was just imagining you with a clown scarf stuffed into your mouth like you're a hostage or something.
Clown hostage after the power goes out.
Sure. Well, it's possible. I've been in some very bizarre clown fantasy scenarios. I will say this, like playing the game and about to win one of the games, like the water balloon thing or the roll the ball thing, and then the power goes out and I never claim my victory.
Oh,
That would be really a sad place for a...
That's your worst nightmare?
that's kind of low-key indie heartbreaking, yeah.
Yeah, right? I think you can make an indie movie out of that.
Yeah.
All right, let's flip the script. Where
Mhm.
would be the best place when a power outage hits on the Strip?
I was thinking maybe Magic Mike because I feel like they just put some candles out and grind on, you know? Could be super fun.
I love
I
that.
like that. That turns it intimate, yeah. I would hope that if I was, like gambling in front of a mega bucks machine, the moment the power goes out, it like has a deep glitch due to the power outage, and it just showers me in the mega bucks win.
Yeah, you would not be able to take a penny of that home, sir.
Yeah, the epilogue would be, there'd be fine print and they would come after me and I wouldn't see a dime. But,
So you'd have to go to like Slots of Fun, like one of the old school, like that still spit out money.
Yeah, a place with less security
Yeah,
because you
where
want to run like hell at that point, Andrew.
yeah, it would become Slots of Funner. So, yeah,
Slots of run.
Slots of Run. How about you, David? What's your best place?
It's always going to be, I'm going to be the romantic. I want to be up on the high roller with a loved one, and we're the only ones in the cab. And it's at the very peak top of it where, the entire strip is now gone dark and it's just cold and quiet and eerie. And you have no one except each other and each other's eyes to gaze upon to create the light of life. Oh.
It's all romantic until someone has to pee in the corner, David.
Yeah, well, yeah, until reality jumps in.
But the way you described that, it was like romantic, but also apocalyptic. It was like romantapocalypse. I like that.
Well, those are the best movies, and certainly Vegas is the best backdrop for that, and certainly Vegas during a power outage. Well, Sarah Lohman and Andrew Crawley, another wild week in the books in Las Vegas. Looking forward to more convos as time progresses.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Also, in a little bit of somber news, I want to offer our condolences to the North Las Vegas police officer, Jason Roscoe, a first responder who was killed in the line of duty in a shootout last Tuesday night. Our hearts go out to his friends and family. And that is all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. Our producers are Layla Muhammad and Lizzie Goldsmith. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katcheries, and our hosts are Sarah Lohman and me, David Figler. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record the show on the traditional homelands of the Nuuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, hey, you should go tell a friend. You could also rate our show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky. And I'm going to just shameless plug, hope that I see either one of you tonight at the Red Dwarf, where my band Tippy Elvis is going to make its rare every 4-year appearance.
It's past my bedtime, David. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Andrew, I know you'll be there with your Tippy Elvis sweatshirt on.
Start the pit.
There we go.